Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I'm joined once again by Darkside Cookies
Hello, hello.
and Demosthenes.
Folks.
Yeah, so these two are the unstoppable Hydra behind the Shinuyama player here, or the Shinuyama position, I should say. So catch us up where we left off, Demosthenes.
Yeah, so we've just finished the campaign for the Asphodel capital and Cap Circle fort, and are pushing towards sort of his main stronghold at his throne of air, where he has gathered an enormous sort of pile of stuff, which may be currently concealed by scrying or something. But
Well, we've got it scryed, so
yeah, we got it scryed, so you can see the sort of report. So there's no major fights this turn. But you can see there's 2,500 units inside this fort that we are sieging,
God.
and in particular,
Yeah.
we didn't bring enough siege strength, so we failed to crack it in one turn with 600. And I think it's a 300
let's
wall
see what the
strength fort,
message we got. The walls are lightly damaged, so
yeah.
that
so
could be
he's
a
got-
long time potentially. But I assume
Yeah,
you're
I
going to
think
bring
we're-
more. It doesn't take that much to.
Yeah, exactly. If we're doing light damage, that means just another 250 or so, or 300, which is the strength of the fort, should be enough. And I think we're flying a bunch of draconians that have been left behind, and so on.
What's the throne situation? There's a lot of I'm just noticing there's unforted thrones all over the place.
Yeah, there's
For what?
3.
Turn 57? Fuck.
Yeah, I was quite surprised that those 2 sort of south of Asphodel were untaken. The ones with Springhawk, though, those can be tough in the early game, but once you've got level 8 magic, is usually not a big deal. And the one has vampires,
Yeah.
which I think is substantially easier than that. I had a theory at the time that Nabah had been like recruiting the commanders from the Springhawk throne, and that's why it was Indy, as he was going to do it with Satan. And then there's one more which is underwater, which is sort of totally fronted by us. But in theory, somebody could drop like a demi-lich or something on it and take it that way. We are, sort of, I think, I'm starting to figure out like a bug kit to go underwater and take that. It's one of these like with 6 mind lords, so it's not an easy one to do with just like 2 guys or whatever. You kind of need an army, or
the mind
to
lords
have like.
tend to behave very badly in their script. They usually like summon water elementals or something and pass out, which is not bad exactly, but they're not. The thing you're terrified of them doing is like soul slaying or enslaving you, and they usually don't do it.
Yeah. So if we were not in such an all-in war with Asphodel, like we definitely would have taken this quite a while ago. But we're feeling sort of reasonably secure that that's ours given the current throne state. But yeah, it's currently like we only have 1 throne despite being like 60 provinces or something. So it's sort of funny in that regard.
Yeah, the biggest throne holders right now are Ulm, and then I guess that's it.
And the Independents. Yeah.
Yeah, Nabah has 2. But one of those is that Throne of Misfortune that's like right between us and Asphodel, and they don't certainly have a secure hold on that yet.
Yeah.
Like, somebody could raid that and put up a wizard's tower anytime, in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at this army you've got on top of this fort. See what we're cooking with over here. So you've got some bait draconians in the front, and then a proper army here getting. Oh, sorry, had a little bit of a yawn. It's getting late over here. But so you've got an army over here like that presumably is going to get buffed to hell. And I love the behemoths back here in the corner. These are just a little chef's kiss. Just the perfect little thing.
Yeah.
And you can probably buff them too. I mean, you've got if you get Army of Gold on them and Fog Warriors and Quickness, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have the level 9, any level 9 tech yet, and I think the only one that we're working on, we might be working on artifacts at this point if we check out research. In part because I really want to get the whole army luck effect. It's just super versatile, and it's a thaumaturgy 9 spell, so if you do construction 9 and get it, you only get in 1 army. It's sort of cheaper in some sense to get it that way than it is to sort of cast it from the research.
Yeah.
But really what we're looking to do is sort of close out the sort of Asphodel as a threat. If we can sort of annihilate their research core and their sort of magic diversity and so on, it'll be able to be the case that we can fight another war without having to think about them sort of resurging, and we'll be able to take all that gear, all those mages, and sort of do whatever with it. So that's our big strategic goal. We're leaving sort of everything south of here for Nabah so that we sort of have a tentative agreement that they're going to get the man capital if they should choose to do that, but we are very much committed to destroying Asphodel's ability to make war. So to the extent that anything sort of leaves the area for contest with Nabah, we are planning to kill it. mean, you can see that we're really pushing forward with sort of a bunch of medium armies to support that main one. We want to control the retreat routes. We want to sort of be able to chase stuff that retreats underwater, et cetera. So there's some light rating, some heavy rating, but that's kind of the strategic maneuver there. We're also in the Asphodel cap circle region really aggressively trying to kill all of his candles. So you'll see that there's a bunch of preaching squads, and in some of the places where he has really high dominion, in addition to having a temple, I think we've made a few of the Hellenistic animates to try and preach. So like one, the Capital has one.
They did that real well.
We don't have H2 access. And this is, we did actually have a site that let us get Holy 2 High Priest a bajillion turns ago, but we never built a temple there. So Cookies, despite his desire to make some, we never actually made any.
Yeah, I've been complaining the whole game about that.
Yeah. And then,
that's really the problem with having only holy ones is it's really hard. Preaching doesn't really do much. And if there's a ton of enemy candles, you can be like, okay, I'll build a temple and I'll wait 6 turns. And then maybe I can preach.
Yeah. It's, for folks who don't know, it's twice the holy level, or the holy level times 30% minus the number of candles. So a holy 1 priest has no effect once there's 6 or more candles in the province.
And even if there's 4, they're really barely working. It's very, they have 5 guys there preaching like, oh yeah, we're really preaching. And it's like, what, 5 guys would be a 50% chance of getting rid of 1 candle in 4 Dominion. And then if the Dominion, I don't know how the turn order goes, but if the Dominion ticks up to 5 before the preaching happens, I think preaching happens first.
Yeah, preaching is first, which is actually important if you're like storming a fort and you want to flip the Dominion before the the fight with the Pretender or whatever. But
we are preaching like crazy on that throne, because we've seen that prophet the ancient presence. So
are you really? You're really preaching with a prophet, a Daitengu,
and our Pretender sitting on it is 3 checks, and that's basically. If those checks happen before the H1s go, then the H1s do something, and otherwise the H1s don't.
Yeah.
I wanted to preach with the Carrion Apostate, our sort of big nature mage, but undead priests can't preach.
So tell me a little bit, what are you expecting him to roll out with? Anything that we haven't seen before? We haven't seen the super combatants, right? That's the real main show.
So the super combatants moved east to the sort of Nabaa border, I think.
Right.
Might even be like a fight there that is worth watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're getting them from this swamp, so this is an important province to take here.
Yes. If you watch the Trollland fight, you will see the ancient presences roll out, and it's actually important to see what he has there, because that's a big part of the answer to what is he capable of.
Oh, God. Oh, I see the quickening hit this guy. No, it didn't. Hit that guy. Didn't hit him.
Yeah, I think what I would really want to see is the fluffing flight on them with the Wind Masters.
Yeah, that would be a big upgrade. Now, do these guys trample? They don't.
They devour.
Right, so which is good. So they wade. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the Nabaa army here is just some camels and the Master Mason or something. And so it's, but you can sort of see what they're capable of. And you can see Legion's Demise is up. So that's one of the big things that we are thinking about is that Fairy Queen.
Asphodel Fairy Queen with pin boosting gear.
Yes.
And this is pre-nerf, right?
This is pre-nerf, yes.
And that was a big nerf. So this is far more. So when we're watching the replays, it's not going to be as scary. It's basically twice as strong. It's still really good, but
So in contrast with like our strategy for the fight with their sort of previous army, where we were sort of fine with a fight that drags out for quite a while, because we had really good reinvigoration and sort of buffs on our troops. Like here, it's really feeling like we need to figure out how to end it quickly, or at least end it for the Fairy Queen. And one of the tactics for getting rid of a Fairy Queen is that their morale is awful. It's 7 or something.
Yeah.
And so if you can do Wailing Winds,
no, they didn't.
They'll leave. But this Fairy Queen is a little challenging because he's scripted it to fall asleep really hard. So, it intentionally does not have reinvigoration boots, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and I think if you look at it, script, it casts a few things before Legion's Demise to sort of get it to something. I remember it being like,
Wailing
Winds and then Legion's Demise. So, this Fairy Queen is not going to retreat because it's going to be knocked out.
Yeah.
And so one thing I was thinking about is trying to kill the Fairy Queen. And one thing that's interesting about Legion's Demise is the Fairy Queen kit involves the Glamour Booster hat, which is a 0 protection hat. And so one thing that you can do is turn 1 Rain of Stones and try to have
I know that's what you're thinking. Yeah.
Hit, there's a little bit of a,
but it's got the shield, right?
They've got an air shield blast, or it could do air shield, but anyway, it is a vulnerability that one can try to target. It also, this kit does not have a lot of resistances. They've got lightning resistance, but not other things that you can imagine.
This is not okay. It's got, if they have the same script, it's got 80% air shield and it's got a shield. I think that's pretty unlikely, and it's got 29 hit points.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's
I
not
think in
gonna
this
work.
particular case, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Another class of thing is battlefield wipes that are doing more damage than their generation. So what I was thinking about is, okay, maybe Firestorm isn't enough, but Firestorm and Acid Storm together might be enough to
that could work maybe.
It. And another direction is there's a bunch of other battlefield wipe type things. They're all battlefield damage things. There's one thing you can do with it is that even though it will not route once it's asleep, if you get it to route before it falls asleep, you're all set. So so one sort of thing is try to get it to route before it puts up Legion's Demise in the first place through just causing damage or otherwise. I think that was the direction I was most favoring is it's probably too hard to kill sort of before it gets its spell up, or even after, just because it's going to be in a sea of chaff and so on. But maybe doing some shock damage through things like Earthquake, might be able to pull it off.
Let's take a look here at your army again, and let's look how vulnerable it is to Legion's Demise. Yeah. Legion's Demise is essentially going to put a clock on every single unit on the battlefield, and how much HP they have is going to determine how fast that clock ticks. But you can do some things like put magic resistance on your troops, and that'll help some, but only a little bit. And you can't regen away the damage, and you can't block it with resistances, the only MR.
Yeah. So the tools that we have, for our big mages like the Bakemono sorcerers, once enlarged, they have quite a bit of HP, and we have an MR bless plus anti-magic that makes it that even with penetration, they will pass a bunch of the sort of MR checks. So they're actually pretty good for sort of the fight, but the Dai Bakemono are all going to die, probably. And
yeah,
the sort of Draconians and so on as well, a little slower because of a larger HP pool and higher MR.
They might live. But the Dai Bakemono will last for maybe 8 rounds.
Yeah, they'll make it into melee and be able to do some stuff. And critically, we're doing life after death. So all of the Dai Bakemono, when they die, are going to turn into soulless. And so we'll still have troops on the field. And soulless are immune to Legion's Demise because they're mindless. So it's not, that army will be wiped for the next battle, but for the duration of that battle, it'll be transformed into undead, much weaker units.
Right.
But it's not going to remove the screening effect that they have for our mages, especially if we're sort of, our mages are able to sort of produce chaff or whatnot. But so the strategy that we end up going with for sort of how to proceed is a shock strategy where we put up a bunch of buffs, but also do a ton of very early Earthquake, turn 1 Acid Storm, turn 1 to Firestorm, and the hope being that he's going to bring enough of his Asphodel Chaff that blowing up all of that is potentially able to run the army. And if he has a lot less chaff, well, then he doesn't have nearly, maybe we can just kill them all with mass flight and our troops before the Legion's Demise sort of is able to do its work.
Yeah, I really like how you're thinking about this, because I think on one hand, this spell was very clearly overtuned at this point in the game. You just kind of lose a lot of times if you fight it, but not necessarily, right? Because if you can make the fight even shorter than the time it's going to take for Legion's Demise to kill you, then you can win it. So, y'all are doing that instead of being really upset that they have a really strong spell.
Yeah. And the other thing that we're doing is sort of in our rating positioning, trying to block things out where it's hard for the Fairy Queen can fly with stealth, but, we want to be able to know if it's possible for that agent presence to even make it to the fight or not. And by just sort of blocking the passageway there, so that we can make an informed decision about what threats we need to model. As long as
so
we know
we're expecting a fight potentially next turn, but certainly the turn after when you would be aiming the storm.
Yeah. The other thing to mention about Asphodel is we have not killed their mage pool core. So in theory, he could have 100 mages in there that had been sort of stealthing away from each of these forts that we've been taking. And I'm pretty sure just based on what I saw on scouting reports that they're mostly the Black Dryads, which are like an N1, C1, D1 mage.
Yeah, they're kind of bad.
They're kind of bad, and in particular, they're very bad in a firestorm environment because you can if you've got 100 mages spamming illusions, that is actually very hard to deal with without a battlefield clear. That will wipe almost any troop-based army. But
there's really nothing these guys
know.
can do. They're going to be essentially no value in a battlefield or a battle with battlefield wipes up. Because all they can do is basically bad summons, and those will all get killed immediately. So
yeah. I mean, the glamour, if they had the Dryad Hags, the more expensive ones, those could do stuff. But the 1/1/1 paths are just very limited for what they can do in this context.
Okay, so is there much more to say about Asphodel this turn, or what did you have in your
That's it for Asphodel.
notes?
The other two things I had in my notes is where we're spending our gold. So you can see that we are extremely rich. We're pulling in 4,500 gold in excess of upkeep every turn. And a lot of that is actually not from the land that we took from Asphodel, because a lot of that is pretty low population, but instead just the effect of compounding growth skills on our very good skill sort of core land. And so we're making like starting 3 back mono sorcerers a turn, so sort of effectively, there's 6 in production any time, but half of them are sort of in the second turn. And mostly that is actually not on the Asphodel front, but instead sort of throwing ourselves up for a larger coalition war in the future. Look right now, probably in our Nabob border in the north and the south, there's no big mages there. There's the Zubas and Bakumono Shamans. And we're trying to sort of fix that where we can have sort of the core of major armies in other places. And it's really the Bakumono sorcerers that is a low part of that. And one of the things that's actually nice about killing a pop kill nation like a Asphodel or Ermer is that you get a lot of ports. So if we were to have a ton of gold for some reason, we get a big event, we do Gift of Nature's Bounty or whatever, we can start a bajillion big mages with a nation with recruit any more big mages. So that's sort of like a possible end game for us is just going, saving up all the nature gems from having taken Asphodel capital and sort of turn that into a big game moving global that's income based.
Yeah, those nature gems are always great in the late game. Okay, so Ulm is making their final moves on Pyrene, and they still haven't taken the fort, but there's a tremendous army outside of it.
Despite the sort of wipe of their army, I think it was like
a
turn or two ago. Just last turn. This is sort of just the reinforcement.
Yeah, it was that fight where it's like Pyrene should have cast Wrathful Skies, and so it was like a very Pyrrhic victory they had over Ulm. But nevertheless, a painful war for Ulm.
Yeah, and one thing that's actually important for the Pyrene continued defense is that, this was like 6 months ago, but there was a bug where Pyrene's knights that retreated, I think there were like 30 of them, died in the retreat, and we reported the bug and got it fixed by Ilwinter, so it's all good now. But effectively, they tried to retreat to adjacent provinces, even though they'd run away inside the fort, and all died. So they'll have a little bit less than you might have otherwise expected inside the capital.
Okay,
that's all I have.
The other people we got to keep our eye on is Nidavangr. So they've basically done, you've been very intentional about cutting them off from Asphodel spoils. So they're basically done with the looting down here, and there's not much more for them to get for Pyrene, except maybe a little bit more underground. But
there's nothing left.
Yeah. So where are their armies and what are they doing? Do you know? Like, I think they should get this throne. That's probably top priority. Like, they should get both these thrones, really.
Yeah. So I think one thing they should be doing is definitely grabbing those thrones and putting up ports on them, maybe even magic phase ports, so that you don't have to wait forever for that. And then I would think that they would be mobilizing along as many of our borders as they're able to do. I think they're a little bit stretched thin militarily. If you look at their scales, it's turned.
Yeah, they had a pretty strong bless. So
and they had that sort of imprisoned incarnate breath with, I don't know, death scales, but they had this imprisoned incarnate breath with fear and fire shock resistance. And so, I think that they're not ultra rich in the way that sort of we are. And so I think you can see that they have some armies around, but I think that they've definitely been either stealthing or just don't have troops in a bunch of places. And I'm actually kind of thinking in terms of the way to fight them.
The Nithbays don't hot sneak. So we see 80, maybe 50, and then maybe 40. Like, there should be a lot more Nithbays somewhere. I don't know where they are, but you certainly can't see them.
Because they've got the temple spam to make a lot, limited only by their sort of order scales, basically.
And remind me, have they really fought like a real war yet? Asphodel was letting him vulture. They sort of were fighting Pyrene, but Pyrene seemed mostly to fight Ulm.
They took we saw a contested fight where they took that sort of big fort in the sort of southwest from Pyrene, fighting through, getting blasted by storm demons and stuff. They definitely lost some mid-baits there, but I would guess they have a pretty good portion of all the mid-baits that they've made all games, and even a good portion of the Scarthol on them.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I can't imagine that upkeep considerations would limit that, because mid-baits are actually shockingly cheap for having 5 lives,
Well, I don't know, man. If you're in a top position at turn 57 and you haven't adequately bloodied your armies, it's like that bit from Game of Thrones when they're talking about the unsullied.
Yeah.
But it's like you have to bloody your army. So there's something where you just have to be in scrappy fights, I think, even to just have your brain turned on in a Dominions game. Even if you're a good player, but you're just kind of coasting, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, he has a lot of globals, but I think he's been putting a lot of his total gem income into specifically building for being able to cast those globals and then putting them up. He might not have the same enormous quantities of gear that we have, for example, that you sort of assemble to be able to make an army that's able to do all the big spells. He may not have all the diversity mages he needs, at least at scale. Maybe he's got some elemental royalty, but does he have, enough, bigger mages of every type? I don't know. We haven't. It's kind of hard to see. I've been doing some scrying into his territory and have a lot of scouts, but I would say that his lands do feel empty to me. And the way that I'm currently thinking about the opening moves of that war is that I intend to apply extraordinary rating pressure and just try to overwhelm him, because it feels like he's sort of got a few armies assembled, but it doesn't have the capacity to just put Chaff everywhere, or that's able to deal with raiders.
Do you have any naps at this point?
Yes, I think we have a nap with Nidavangr and a nap with Naba and a nap with Ulm. I think we might have naps with everybody, but no, we don't. We have nothing with Tianchi. So Tianchi, who is not a major power, I am intentionally not making a nap with, because he's got a throne on our border that we can take for sort of endgame. And it's not like trivial to take a fort from a Tianchi, even, I don't know. If they can figure out how to not have their mages get routed early, like Gift from Heaven is a big threat.
Sure.
But they're probably at such a tech level disadvantage that I'm not really worried about them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. Closing thoughts, Dark Side Cookies? What do you think?
I think right around now is when Demosthenes started having me do some testing versus Nidbase. And in their description, they've got some interesting flavor text about how Disintegrate and Petrify will go through all the Scar Souls. So I got tasked with doing some testing around that, just confirming that, because we can do both. And we have a lot of boosters to help with doing both. And so we might have an interesting matchup advantage versus their Sacreds if we were to fight a war.
Yeah.
I think the other thing we're looking at, we have no mages who can cast Wind of Death, but it would be very reasonable empower, to one of our Bakumono sorcerers to do that. And one of the things that's interesting about Nidbase is that, they got a reset potential on afflictions, but not on the age of the unit. And so that is also potentially an option for dealing with them, is to decay them.
You've got 9 lives, but if you're 230 in all of them, how useful are they really?
Exactly. And the enslaved mind line of things is also relevant, but we don't really have the capacity to do that. So that's sort of more the direction that we were, sort of pondering in.
Well, cool. Hopefully we have a big fight next turn.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll get to see. It might be fun. We maybe should pull up some of your, if you have them, Dark Side Cookies, some of your tests for Nithbathed. It'd be fun to look at. You can check your archives.
Yeah, I've been trying to release some of those.
Okay. Oh, well, even better. We'll put it as a link to your channel.
Okay.
Yeah. I think how far are we in the episode? I think we could do the next turn. I think next turn is a short one.
It's a short one. Okay.
Yeah. There's no big fight next turn, other than another attempt to storm Marignon, which we of course have to watch. So.
Okay. I'll pause. All right. Turn 58. So bunch of magic getting cast. I found a magic site. Meteorite Cliff. Very nice. And so I don't want to. Let's see. Do we have a battle in Marignon? There wasn't anything left, right? What's the
Yeah.
what's the context of this? They'd done the previous storming where they did did they do Wrathful Skies or something? I know Hal got put up by the god here, and then
Yeah, it was random
things
stones.
happened.
Yeah, random stones, and they killed the
Stones.
god. So this is now just the capturing the there's a few knights who retreated from the
Right.
attempt to break siege. With relieve the siege from their other fort. Everything they'd made there.
All right.
But,
So there's no chance they really have of holding this because there's nothing with any magical power here really, except some sacreds in the back.
you could have some very lucky rolls with their crossbows, but yeah, it's not realistic to win. Other than maybe friendly fire routing all of those knights and that causing an HP rout or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because these knights don't have fire resistance, and these falling fires are big. But even I don't think the knights would cause a rout.
Yeah, it's not enough, I think.
Yeah, and let's take a look at some of these thugs again. I think he recovered most of the gear, but yeah, okay, they're very cool thugs. Yeah, there's just no chance really against this kind of thuggery, They're just gonna pick these sacreds apart.
Yeah.
The sacreds don't even have magic weapons, so it's literally mission impossible. All right.
So
Nabaa, they had their eye on this Marignon capital for so long.
yeah, they're gonna get the 4 fire gems a turn that they've been hoping for at last.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
Marignon
man.
is of course not dead. They've still got their last citadel. But
Yeah. All right. So the mission isn't completely over yet, and there can be more mages potentially inside here.
yeah,
Oh, man.
I mean, very unlikely anything that could threaten that force. But it's another giant fort to crack, and one of the things that was accomplished when he brought his knights
Jesus
to relief.
Christ. Look at that. 1,500 wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's he going to siege it with? Oh,
Yeah, well, he
God.
had some great eagles, but they were the
They got
one
killed,
thing
right?
that was killed when the knights
Yeah.
rode out a few turns ago. So that is, could make more, but it's going to be a big slowdown.
Oh, God.
And the original Marignon capital, we seized it for him with our giant stack of draconians. Who,
That's right.
we're not gonna do the other one for him. So
Yeah. He's got to start making some short bows or something. Just get the indie production turned on.
yeah, and then we have
Oh, boy. Well, that was fun. Congratulations. For Nabaa here, finally nailing it. I mean, I'm being kind of facetious, making jokes about it, but these are really important milestones for Nabaa to check off so that they can start being more of an active, diplomatically free and flexible player, right? Because really, until they finish feeding on Nabaa, on Marignon and on Asphodel, they can't, for example, choose to fight you realistically,
Right.
Or even if you and Alm decide to go after Nidavangr, they can't really organize a way to help or something. So
yeah. And the other thing I want to say here is I think this is one of the things that's really cool about Dominions is the Marignon player, has managed to have a fun game going out to turn 57, where the second half of that game was just defending his capital from Nabaa, right? But it's sort of important for the game experience for everybody that he did that. And I think it's like a pretty cool little like tower defense or something, sort of challenge to sort of figure out what to do with the limited resources you've got.
No, they definitely affected the outcome of the game. They made Nabaa get out their wallet and pay and pay and pay and pay. So,
And if you're in a situation like this, you can really make someone pay a lot more if you find a kind of like a sponsor.
yeah.
He'll send you the gems or gear that you need to gear up your prophet to be a super combatant or whatever. And people generally want to help you. It'll hurt their rival, but it's also just like fun to sort of see you try something cool.
Yeah.
So I think like it's a sort of I think on both sides actually it's important to get that defending your losing position is great, and also you shouldn't feel bad if it's hard to take a capital from somebody who's defending it earnestly. It's hard even for a great player.
Guys, what the fuck am I seeing?
Oh yeah, so
a gem bait.
Yeah, so well, it's
but
not just
why
a gem
use the good stuff? Like these bears weapons are good.
Yeah, so I know exactly what's happening here, which is that how we've been stealing his carrion beasts with arcane domination. He's getting rid of all the carrion beasts so so that we can't get a bunch of stuff behind his port wall that is going to fight all of his stuff. So this is
But
disposing of the Chaff.
Shouldn't he keep the good stuff?
It's 7 MR. We're gonna steal it. You know.
But you can turn 1 anti-magic, right? I know you're like, you magic dueled it before, but you know,
well, he doesn't have his pretender. He never got to rescue it.
The Astro one got away. So he's got that.
I don't think it did.
No. We only killed the Fire Earth one. The other 2 teleported or selfed out. I assume.
I don't know about that,
but I mean, I would kind of, you know, he could do. Yeah, I don't know. There's different things, and there's the mind blink spell. Like if he knows what you're gonna try to magic duel. Though I guess you need to do turn 1 anti magic sort of.
Yeah. The problem is actually
having a golem is the main thing. But
the problem is actually that we have enough penetration boost that even with anti magic up, we will still steal the majority of those carrion beasts on our pretender.
Oh really? Like, even so this guy with.
So it goes up to 12.
13 MR. You're gonna still steal most of them.
Well, no, it's in Magic 3.
Against. Huh?
It's still in Magic 3, so it'll be 12, like just 4 higher, right? And it's an easy MR check, so it's 7 plus the penetration bonus. But I was hitting, I think, +4, +5 with my penetration bonus, so it's about a 50-50 flip. And having half of them flip is not behind the port wall is just not helpful. I think what he would have liked to have done. We'll have to blow up. It's pretty fun.
Shouldn't he have gotten Legion's Demise cast here too? With a ring of... I don't know if a ring of returning wouldn't have worked, but maybe like...
Yeah, the problem is he's probably only got the 1 caster. Yeah, he's only got the 1 caster, I think. So it's, he'd rather put it for a fight that he can win,
Oh god, you stole all of it. I was like, where is it? I can't tell because it's all gray. Where's that? And I didn't realize that gray was yours. I was like, oh, you didn't steal much. You only got this green stuff down here. Oh god, you got all of it. Just a massive donation. What if he also had Arcane Domination and he debated you into taking this so that he could steal it in HP Retro Army?
I don't think it works because it's based on your HP at the start of the battle. I don't think it would HP round.
But because he gave it to you, so the next round he fights you.
Yeah, if I use them, but I'm gonna go underwater with them. I'm not gonna leave. Bring them for the storm.
Yeah.
But one thing to notice is that he brought only a few of the mannequins. This is most of the carrion beasts, and the mannequins have a lot higher MR.
Oh yeah,
like 12.
Yeah, so it's very really clear what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be such a Jedi move, though.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
So shit. Making a great donation, an offering to the Shrine of Shinuyama.
Yeah.
Or at the Shrine of Shinuyama. Oh god.
And I think the other contested fight that
You're like, what's the meme? And it's I'm Asphodel now. It's like somebody has the thing and they take it. I can't remember. But...
Well, we had a lot of fun joking about this because I've been saying since I found that animal graveyard 40 turns ago that I'm gonna have more carrion chaff than anybody else, and we're on track to do it.
Now you do. I think you do. That might have been I don't know. There's probably still another 5 or 6
and
countries.
I think his comeback to that was he had his own, but I think we just captured that in rating in the bottom left.
He has his own animal sanctuary. Yeah, that southwest province that we just took is where his cemetery is. Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah, if you want to watch the lizards fight, I think that I remember being a fun sort of little contested raid of a lizard slaughtering things, which again I really love it because the lizard warrior with no protection unit people usually think is sort of useless, but this is a situation where it's pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, just the Asphodel chaff is really bad, but
it's really bad against high attack density stuff because it's got no protection and it's just relying on sort of wearing you out with the sleep mine. So if you've got enough attack,
I'd say it's pretty bad in general. The thing is that what the Asphodel chaff usually does is it just protects the really killy stuff in the Asphodel army, and that could be the tramplers or the bear the Sagittarian. What is it? with the
Yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
club. Yeah. You know, or the black centaur.
Yeah, the
So
carrion
mostly
hordes,
the
like,
chaff
yeah.
is good just because it keeps you from being able to focus down the elites.
hmm
But this stuff is literal garbage by itself.
It is, but if we'd sent 10 Daibakemono to that province, they would have died just because they would all fall asleep before they managed to kill enough of the carrion chaff to rout.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's
So,
true. You can't do that against Asphodel. Just send
yeah, yeah.
but
10
you know,
high
if you
protection
put
dudes or whatever, you know.
yeah. But I mean you could also send one guy with fire shield and it would solo kill all that. So
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Very cool. Pyrene. Alm pings to the inside of Pyrene. Let's see what's inside. Not a whole lot. Just a couple goats. Oh, some anti-thug gear. Very strange script. Group bark skin while everybody's running off. Okay,
Well,
so he's got a
that's-
lot of thugs. What's
I
that?
think the group bark skin is them going off script, like they were supposed to cast
Ah,
relief or
okay.
something, and they're not using
Gotcha.
gems, so it's probably not what's scripted.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wonder if he did any Blackheart assassins, because those Acker belts would be a really good candidate.
Man,
Yeah,
we got a pretty good run here. Look at this. It's
Yeah.
a nice province graph. I like that.
Yeah, I think I remember the Pyrene player talking a bit about trying to use the Sorgina as Blackheart assassins and finding that it didn't work as well as he wanted it to because they're only stealthy in the cat form. The Blackheart only works there, so that's one slot. And then they need since the cat form doesn't have climb walls, they need a second item to get the get over the wall thing to assassinate on a fort, and then you have no slots for your Pokemon item or whatever. So it's just
Yeah.
what gems you brought as sort of what you have.
Yeah. No, it's rough. Okay. Wait, you have an item. Oh yeah, the black heart too. Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. Okay. So what's Nabad doing? Anything over here? No sign of them going after this. They did get knocked off. They got knocked off in Asphodel for kind of disrespecting Asphodel not too long ago.
Yeah.
But there's nothing over here to take this yet.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll be able to see next turn. I think that their army is stealthed on that throne, the throne of misfortune, and they're finishing a fort there, and so that's why they're not moving as they want to finish the fort, so they can sort of manage that. But I think also they don't have an answer to Legion's demise right now, and so they're probably rejiggering what they're scripting and sort of plan of battle as to be able to deal with.
That's not what what Nabah wants. After they've kind of had this very choppy, very trying to kind of claw back their position after all the kind of, quite frankly, you know, the beatings that Marignon put on them, and then Asphodel, trying to claw back, and then it's okay, well now you need to take infrastructure from Asphodel, which is pop kill drained, and there's a Legion's demise caster.
The one thing that's a bit different is it's not pop kill drain. So Asphodel kept their candles largely out of the man region. In part because Nidavangr had so many temples, they were able to do that, just except the Dominion flooding in. So at least some of those provinces, I bet the man capital still has 35k population or something sort of in that range.
Okay. Is there anything else that we should cover this turn? It looks like you had said before it was pretty quick. So
yeah, this is a quick turn. So strategically, what we're doing is storming Outcap Spires. And you can see that our gem banks are empty and that there is a ridiculous number of gems on those mages because we're sort of every tactic we can come up with to make the battle go faster, especially the second battle we want to have online because for all we know, Legion's Demise Caster is going to be in there.
It could magic phase inside. It's if anything, it could like fairy trot in there and then,
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's 4 ancient presences there. We don't know if any of those are commanders, and thus would be able to have more buffs and stuff.
This is going to be a fun battle. It's going to be fun to see what happens. I wish you guys hadn't seen how it goes because I'd love to ask for predictions, but quite frankly, I'm the only one who can give them, and I don't have any idea. I just know it's going to be tough.
Yeah, Legion,
I would say one thing.
Yeah.
If the Legion's Demise Caster doesn't show up because they're just going to go after Nabah, I'll be very sad. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a
but
fine thing to say. I think the other thing that is probably worth talking about is that we made a strategic choice to storm now and give sort of as little information about sort of what our sort of final script is as possible, rather than pinging to see what they have inside.
yeah,
And a big part of that is that if you look at Trollland, sort of the place to the east, I think his prophet is still there. So sort of the fort to the east that he sort of had to fight with in Bond, just east of the Man capital.
oh yeah, here, yeah.
So
Yeah, so
I think you can
can't
see that
reach.
the ancient presence prophet is there, so he can't arrive. And anyway, so we can storm confidently this turn, knowing that you don't have to deal with that level of super combatant. Just the
Yeah.
normal ancient presence, whatever he does with those.
Yeah.
Just the normal
Um,
ancient presences. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be fun. I can't wait to see. But yeah,
Did you-
I think the other thing too is if you have this many gems on your mages too, it also increases the cost of waiting a turn. And you're gonna give away information. I think you don't want to get gem baited, you don't want to give away information. Better to just you're very prepared. You've been thinking about this for the past like 6 or 7 turns. It's time to YOLO.
Yeah.
Were you wanting to take a
So.
peek at the scripting, or just see how it
I
plays
think
out?
let's leave that as a surprise for next time. But
All right.
but you can walk us through the setup next time, kind of what's happening before we see it all play out in its glory.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone, and especially thank you Demosthenes and Darkside Cookies for sharing this with us.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to have some cool multiplayer games online for the community to enjoy. So happy I was able to see so much of this, like with our scouts and so on.
Yeah. Thank you for posting,
Yeah.
and thank you for letting me hydro with you.
All right. See y'all next time.